Hi learners! So if you're seeing this video, it's probably because you've been keeping up with all of the drawing practices that we've been adding, and it's so much change going on. And I love talking to people like around the world and getting an idea of the colors you're seeing, the changes you're seeing, the events they're attending, the different kinds of festivals, the holidays, and just putting those pieces into their projects. Which is why I leave so many of my projects so open-ended, because there's so many different cultures and different events, and some of us are in a city, some of us are in a country, and art feels like a biography someday that you're writing about yourself, because just like how your style is like handwriting and looks so super unique, it's the same thing we can say about our art, that little pieces of our life fall into it. And it doesn't have to be some big obvious piece, but sometimes just our preferences, what we like, what we dislike, what we're actually currently doing in the season. So that being said, the project this week was lanterns, and I had been talking about motifs the previous week with folk art, but we ended up going to where I was talking about light. And light is super important, especially in the colder months. So if you're interested, I'm going to go step by step with the lantern project so you can try it at home, and I'll give a couple of tips and tricks along the way. How I got started was, this is like when anyone's here just practicing, doodling ideas. Others, it doesn't, this isn't like a rule book. I will probably show a different shape if I did this project again, but you really just need to pick a frame, a light source, and then some designs or patterns, and then maybe throw in a few objects that interact on it, and doesn't have to do per se with the lantern, but where the lantern is. And so how I would get started is with a blank piece of paper, and then find a handy dandy ruler. And this part is always very light on my pencil. I just really think it's important to pick a shape, and there's really no wrong answer with that part. So I'll probably like fast forward for this part, but go ahead and just like I'm gonna put out these drafting lines, and then go and go over them with Sharpie so you can see them really well. And now I'm just gonna keep continuing. Now, the wall right here. Here's the inside. And this is my favorite. It doesn't have to be an electrical camera or mechanical creation. It can be just some normal fiery light. And then I say let it melt down a little bit because it gets really warm inside the glass. And there's the base. And then I can go for underneath so we can continue making a pattern. And there's the bottom. And now I got this piece. And I can put some fans. A way to hang it up. And you can make this just completely solo. It does not have to have everything else on top. I think I'm gonna pause. So essentially what you want to start out by doing is to get one rectangle, and I worked lightly in color pencil. I always say do a very light pencil sketch or use another drafting color. And after you have that, what I started off with is I made one shape. You always want to do your panels first, not the top or the bottom. And so this would have been rectangle one, and then you would have used that to measure out your two sides. And you just want to start off by making where the panels are going to end up being. So you can have two equal panels and then one large panel in the middle. After you have that chosen, you want to go back to your middle panel and you want to figure out how big or how long you want it to be. And you can use your ruler just to help ace some straight lines. And then I made another little rectangle at the bottom, help keep all that wax from just dripping right out. And there you go. All I use is on diagonal again, and then I'm just going to just fill in more of my rectangle shapes. And of course, there's going to be a back and a front, so we'll have that. But you just really can start with left or right, but you're just going to kind of repeat the process and then connect them. And then I forgot to put a little bit of a lip on that side as well. I think the bottom comes in as the second easiest thing because you just make a smaller rectangle. And then you come over and you the edge. You want to stop right before you get to that edge. And you're going to put in your diagonal rectangles. You then just want to pull the bottom into a cute little curve. And there's my bottom of mine. You could have left it flat as well. So this little part just makes it more of a wall lantern. So going up, you could pick another box shape, but I like to do a bell shape and just connecting it back. So I'm starting on each edge and then working my way back up to the top. So you're forming a mushroom. And then your next shape that's going to be at the very top is a cylinder. So see why my students know why I'm doing this, to make them practice just going and using all their shapes inside their designs. I teach younger artists, so I try to kind of give us a warm up that pushes our boundaries and we get to benefit from them because we can get lots of different techniques into one project. And I imagine the light would be able to come out of this part of the lantern. Didn't want to do all black and just no cutouts in this pattern. I wanted the light to be escaping through those little pieces of the light. So, and then I could come down here and add the last little circles as well and see, keep them in similar areas. And then I can come down here and there's the flick And there's some drops on their candle, and then you got some more details over here. Maybe some melted wax down here. I don't know. We shall decide. Now, I know a lot of my buddies love working with just pens, so I do keep this design as a pattern that you don't necessarily have to color it. You can use some hash marks to create some glare or movement on the glass from the flickering of that flame. And this is what I was talking about. So you can go on top of the glass and start adding some unique designs just by doing a few more straight lines. But these also could have been swirls. I did that with the first design that I showed. And now I'm just going in and making a pattern with it that cuts these designs out. So start in the center, and I do two at the top. And then I'm going to come back in with two V's. So you can start your V's towards the middle. And that works there too. And then don't forget there's a lip. So I'm coming back to the inside of here. Now that I have the candle done, then you see I'm filling it in. So there's that. So of course you want to do some lines up here if you're like me and like being a little bit illustrative. I just want to emphasize that there would be some light flickering, that this is metal, so it wouldn't be completely coated one color, but that's just like the good bones. So just like with my first design, just pick a theme, um, and do it a little bit differently each time. And in this one, you probably can see I have my blue lines before I go back in black. I did a different top. It could be completely flat as well as the bottom. And really, you have several opportunities to redo this design. I just chose Halloween because it was the closest holiday, but you really could come back in here and do things like adding some fall foliage around it. Um, if you didn't want to do that, you could do maybe something to do with the trees or the animals in the area and put that in as well. And you don't have to worry about the background. You can totally create this piece just focusing on the lantern and what's going on around it. And if you ever recreate the picture, maybe you can add to the story at that point. But it's okay to try this without going into that detail. And there I go with that. And as you can see, I got a nice little swirl like an eye. I did this one a little bit more whimsical than the other, so they can be serious, spooky, they can be whimsical, all the right answers. And I'm just going to add some more leaves here and there. And that's about it that I did for this piece. Could keep pushing, of course, with more details, but I like to try and leave them open-ended so you can finish these pieces any way you like. And I just wanted to create some movement around this design, so happy coloring with this one. It's really a lot of fun. And, gosh, I don't know what new art supplies you've been buying as well, but I'm looking forward to using some new tools on this piece. And thanks for watching. Light is really tricky. I feel like when I'm doing this project and I'm taking people through step by step, one of the most important parts is setting up the framework and getting a format chosen. So the very first step was just about getting the shape picked out, and then you want to progress by making several panes. Of course, I think whether or not you do the sapphire or more rectangle or square design, there's not one that's easier than the other. I definitely think it's when you don't have a solid frame that gets difficult. But if your metal's flush to your glass, it makes it a lot easier to design a custom lantern. That being said, too, you just really had to pick whether you're doing an electrical lantern or one that has a wick and a flame in the middle of it. From that choice, then you get to pick a theme, and there's so many different themes you could pick. So I kind of kept it simple for my younger groups and was like, you want to do a Halloween one, you want to do one that's spooky in an old building, we want to be in a book store or Christmas or Thanksgiving. I mean, there's a lot of choices, but there's also a lot of like plays, so you could get even more particular with the details and be like, this is in the world of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the world of Nightmare Before Christmas. So you can really narrow it down or leave it very open, the themes that you're working with. And then going back into color it, you could definitely do this with color first. I was just trying to make it clear as to the metal or the parts that were holding the whole entire contraption together before I broke into color. That being said, too, like make sure you do have a ruler or some other tools that are nearby. I think this is a perfect project that makes it a lot easier to get familiar with your compass or your ruler and really put them into use within your work. Not a requirement. You could totally like take straight edge of a book too, because I've done that before myself and pull off the straight lines that way. And then after you're done, I think it's really neat that you can probably talk about what books or movies or your neighbor's backyard, or if you go walking a lot, the lanterns that you see along the way. There's plenty of ways of getting inspiration on this project. So, let it all in. Look up references if you want, but it's a project where hopefully you repeat it. You don't just do it one time. Recreate this project, be super creative with it. And I just really love the results from this one. I've used some lanterns that have a secondary light source nearby, so you could put Christmas lights hanging in the background behind the lantern or in front of it, and just have all the light bouncing around and the colors you get to play with. So go crazy, go bananas with this project. It's really fun and a great way to practice just creating points and mapping out your designs, and just something you could probably gift or use this holiday. So toodles to the next creation.